Good morning and welcome to Mastering the Art of Real Estate. I'm your host, Debbi DiMaggio. We are here today with one of my friends and colleagues, Susanna Delman. She is not a realtor, but she helps realtors and other business owners with their businesses. Her company is called Essential Clearing. Let's bring Susanna in.
Hi there.
Hello.
Thank you so much. Hi.
We're so happy to have you. I'm so excited. We were at a house earlier this morning cleaning it up for the Saturday and Sunday open house. And I was thinking to myself, what would Susanna do? And so one of the things that you told me to do when you cleared 3 of our houses, and we'll talk a little bit about that, is at the time you said, bright yellow sunflowers. There was no other flower. You were very clear that it had to be bright yellow sunflowers. So that's what I'm going to go get today, unless because it's a different time of year, you recommend something different. So we'll get into that. So let me get into it and introduce Susanna. I was referred to you by one of our BNI colleagues, and you came highly recommended at the time. I had Susanna clear 3 of our homes. 2 of the 3 homes ended up getting 2 offers after being on the market for a long while. Usually after being on the market a while, you may get 1. We got 2 after months on the market. Unfortunately, the 3rd did not sell, but we will discuss that during the episode because I never did call you to kind of go through that. I have a feeling why, and it'll be interesting because I never did circle back with that. So let's introduce you. Susanna works to restore energetic harmony using flower essence and other vibrational methods to shift what is not working in a home, environment, or life. Susanna has been working as an energetic harmonizer for more than 20 years and is a certified flower essence counselor, a trained animal communicator, holds a Master of Public Health, and is a Reiki master. As the inspiration for Essential Clearing, Susanna works with spaces, businesses, and people's lives to help change their vibration and improve the potentiality for all involved. She is the mastermind behind Essential Clearing. Additionally, Susanna owns Animal RX Essences, an alternative flower essence company for animals because your furred or feathered friend can't do talk therapy. She has been a featured speaker and writer on flower essences for human and animal health and energy architecture and energetic harmonizing for businesses, homes, and real estate. So, wow, that I didn't know about the other additional things that you're doing. So, I'm not going to talk a lot about it because I'll start to cry, but we're right in the middle of the LA fires. Is there anything you can do for the animals now?
I know, and it's been a lot of sleepless nights for people up here in Northern California who really care about people and animals there. I've been sending a lot of energy there, and I'm going to work with some of my flower essences to see I mean, dream of rain, dream of calm
Okay.
winds. And create that. I was thinking about that not too long ago. I was with a class and we were very concerned about what people weren't saying, excuse me, about climate change and global warming. And so we created the space to open it up. And then within a month, everybody was talking about it. That's when Al Gore's book came out. So there's so much power in the energy of intention. And that's what I know I am. And I'm sure a lot of us are doing with the
So think of
energy.
rain. So what we could do is just to
Rain,
recap, right? Think of a dream of rain, think of rain and no winds.
a mass rain clouds over the area. Yeah, yeah,
Well,
that
that's
that
good.
will help. All of the
Give,
all of the energy going towards that.
okay,
Yeah,
that's great. That's really
and
wonderful.
safety.
And safety,
Yeah,
right.
and safety
That's
first.
wonderful. That was a whole thing that I didn't anticipate bringing up in this episode. So let's go back. Describe your career path and how and what you first did before getting into essential clearing. Did you do it right after college or right when
Hmm.
got into your career life? And was it part of your family history and DNA?
So, I it was it was not in 1982 or 83. A friend of mine gave me a bottle of Rescue Remedy and said, "You're going to love this." And Rescue Remedy is the most widely known flower essence. And I did not um, do anything with flower essences except for know about Rescue Remedy for that time until sometime in the 80s. I had a couple of cats and I went to a vet and she gave me flower essences to treat my cats. And
Okay.
then, like, a little switch went on. So I had a normal college dropout thing happen, and I became a hairdresser. Then I went back to school. Then I worked for nonprofit. Then I got a master of public health for career reasons. And then all the while taking flower essence classes, buying kits of flower essences, taking more classes, learning energy architecture, which is literally working with the energy of a space, people's lives to bring in what they want, what the space wants. And eventually, I had had enough of nonprofits. I'd had enough of not um, driving my own car, not being behind my own life in business. And I thought I would become a flower essence counselor. I opened an office. I manifested a second set of flower essences for that office. I manifested more flower essences. And I was sitting in my office a lot, taking naps, not getting a lot of business, going to a lot of networking events. And I had to have a come to Jesus meeting with myself, which is always funny for a Jew. But I was, wow, what am I going to do here? So I had remembered that I did energy architecture, and I thought, let me try to cold call realtors and help them sell homes. And Debbie, my
Wow.
business took off. Yes.
Wow.
So yeah, so I did that. That was the end of 2017. In March of 2018, I joined BNI. I incorporated Essential Clearing, not incorporated per se, but worked with a very smart friend to get the name out, branded, joined BNI, had more access to realtors, and started cold calling a whole bunch. Word got out, and I still go to open houses to meet y'all, and that's how my business took off.
Wow. Okay, so it wasn't part of your DNA. This you weren't born into an intuitive family. You had a whole lot of different jobs before you started this. Yourself, I
It's
mean,
true. It's
you learned
true.
how to do
I
it.
think I was. I do think I was born into an intuitive family. I think it came the matrilineal line. My grandmother was definitely up to something. So yeah,
Okay. No,
but no,
I
not like
definitely,
no. Yeah, but
you
but
definitely come.
that my first cousin in Switzerland works with flower essences also. So
And
it
it is in the
did come
family.
down. Yeah.
And did she start or did you start first?
We don't know.
That's so interesting. I mean, okay, there's so many different modalities, right? So, and you do some of the other ones. So, can you tell us the difference? I know when I called you, I just know, feng shui is what we learn early on. You kind of hear about feng shui. So, and then yes, we had someone come into the house and feng shui our listings, and but she did it under the modality of feng shui. So, can you tell us the difference from? And I didn't know about flower essence when I spoke to you. I was referred to you to do a clearing, and so I didn't really know what it was. I'm just please sell these houses. But what's the difference between Reiki, feng shui, flower essence, and shamanism?
Okay. Reiki, feng shui, flower essences. So Reiki is an energy that we manifest through our hands or through our eyes. They say it comes from the sun. They also say that everybody has the ability to do it. We just forgot. And when I'm teaching people Reiki, it's like a switch. There's specific things that we do to turn that switch on, and everybody can do Reiki. A lot of people do it naturally because it's been opened up in their lives due to massage therapy. They're body workers. A lot of body workers have not been attuned to Reiki, is what it's called, but they become able to do Reiki. Feng Shui literally
Well,
means
let's go back to
order.
that real quick. So with Reiki, I just know people, what I've heard, I haven't done it. People lay on a table and you're kind of doing this over the people, but not touching them. Is that kind of how it is?
It can be done that way. People can also be touched. Like when I do Reiki, I prefer to touch people, um, because what happens is your hands get really warm.
Okay.
And how, think about when you put on a heating pad and how good that feels, like
Mhm.
really bad cramps or a sore something. And so I love the feeling of the warm hands when I receive Reiki. So I love giving the Reiki, but you go over the chakra system. That's
Okay.
part of how it is. And then if there's a physical issue, you work with that physical issue. And people can be lying on their back, they can be lying on their stomach. You can send Reiki remotely. That's another thing that I've been doing with the fires, is sending Reiki remotely to
Oh,
the
wow.
areas. Yeah.
Okay.
Um,
And
so
could
yeah,
I come could I come to an appointment and you do it on me, but then show me how to do it to myself so I can do it as often as needed?
if if we turn that switch on, you have to be attuned. So it's sort of like a course you take.
Okay.
But absolutely. And when I'm doing Reiki, I'm working with a specific set of flower essences and stones, and people do Reiki in different ways. I believe I follow the Usui path, and that's a whole other conversation.
Okay. All right. I love this stuff. Okay, let's go on to
I
feng
know
shui.
you do. Okay, so feng shui literally means order. And feng
Okay.
shui, the house or the space is divided up into nine quadrants isn't right. Nine sections. There's three in the front, three in the middle, and three in the back. And I only know enough about feng shui to be dangerous, is what I say. So when I'm working and I see something really glaring about feng shui that needs to be corrected, I work a lot with a feng shui master who is in LA, and I she's right now, I don't believe she's taking any more clients, and sadly a lot of her clients' homes have been lost in these fires. Um, but if I see something glaring and it pings with me, I will check with her, or sometimes I know the correction because I've worked with it so much and worked with her. But an energy architecture, energetic harmonizing, which is what I do, fits really beautifully with feng shui, because one of the things a feng shui master will do, is, I know you've worked with them, is clear the space. And I do that, but more. I start with clearing the space with sage or other burning herbs, and then work with the order in the space. But you then said flower essences, so I'll tell you about flower essences, and then we can get back to that. So flower essences are energy from the plant kingdom and from the gems and from the earth. There's several different things that are under the umbrella of flower essences. So um, it got too complicated to call it a whole bunch of other things, but there's gem elixirs, and those actually work physically with structure. Flower essences help us, and flowers have messages for us. They're liquid messengers of of support for us, animals, the earth, and they're made very economically by taking flowers at the height of their bloom, placing them on a bowl of water, and then being solarized in the sun for 3 hours, where the energy is also prayed in by the creators of the essences. but of course, the universal energy is the creator of the essence. And then you take drops out of that, and then you use drops for treating emotional issues, some psychological issues, and I use them. I've evolved my work as a flower essence counselor based on the theory of panpsychism, which is that there's consciousness in everything. And so when I had that aha moment, I was using the Alaskan Essences company's sprays, and then I evolved and I thought, wow, there's energy in everything and everything is consciousness. So I started treating spaces as if they were people and modifying the essence variation for them. And every single space has a different essence, um, not lineage, of different essence resonance. And so that's what I treat your house as if it is person.
Okay. And so when you're going room to room, so when you're going room to room, are you spraying a bottle or are you doing drops on something? How are you doing that?
It varies. Actually, um, when I'm working in a, let's say I'm working in a listing, I'm going around the place 6 times. The first will be with sage, then I'll be using a flower essence combination that I believe changes the vibration in a place to neutralize. Like if we could see this space right here, it would look like a 3D graph paper, like with energy lines running through it at different angles. And sometimes something happened in a space and it's like, there's the energy, right? So the first time I'm spraying something that I will work with because I'll go around a second time um, to smooth that out. And then I'll bring in the essences that I've made for the place, spray them, and then go back around working with Reiki and other energies again to bring in that harmonizing energy, which will help on the quantum field. So, past, present, and future. So, here you are on this trajectory that includes all of the other people and animals and everybody who's been there, healing that energy from now into the future.
To give the viewers an idea of what that meant or means or can mean, I know one of the things that I remembered was from one of the clearings is um, you wouldn't realize that you knew something had happened in the house, and I said, well, the house had burned down. It was during the firestorm. It had, it was rebuilt. And you also said that you wanted to bless the land, and there may have been Indians or someone who had died around there, but you felt something from a long time ago. And
Yeah.
so you were, I don't know how you say, appeasing that or clearing that or um,
Yeah.
saying forgive.
That
Forgive. I think there was like,
exactly. Forgiveness. That brings us into shamanism because that
okay.
was your fourth question.
Hmm.
I am not a trained shaman, but I believe that shamanism is based there. There's lots of different types of shaman and different. They're called different things. And today I was actually talking to somebody about being a curandera, which is also another word for witch. Um,
Okay.
and I have developed because the land is very often part of if we're just speaking about real estate, the land
Mhm.
is part of what has happened to something has happened to the land, and the land needs healing also. In the firestorm, ironic that we're talking about that today, there's so much trauma. And a lot of the listings that I work with in the Oakland Hills and other places that have had fire, there's an energy of the fire. And even, I don't know, 30 years later, there's still that energy of the panic of the people and the animals in that fire. So I use herbs and tobacco to offer back to the land and talk to the land. And sometimes the flower essences in my sprays are specifically for the space. And I've walked properties apologizing to what has happened to that land when it's been reclaimed from streams, or it's the hillside has been cut into and the hillside did not get asked or apologized to. I will work with those energies as well.
That was one of the things that had happened. Yes, it was on a downslope. And then just to circle back to the shamanism, what is that exactly?
Uh, that's a really good question, because a lot of people call it a lot of people relate to it as different things. I'm not qualified to really answer that question, like to really say what it is, but I believe that it is honoring our planet and the energies in the planet and working with them to heal. And so I have a friend who's a shaman, actually a couple of them, and I have worked with that modality in a way with them. So one of the things when I'm working with a property that has had a lot of issues is I will build a nature space to honor the nature spirits on the land that will not be crossed by any um, any person. It's its own space, and it's for the nature spirits and for the people who lived in that land. And I got a call from somebody who'd had her house cleared 7 times, and there were still things were still happening at the house. And by things, I mean, a woman who was renting downstairs had donated a bunch of clothes, and they showed up back in her closet, like different,
Oh,
like similar but different clothes. I mean, it was the
oh,
weirdest thing. And
the
I mean, there
chills.
were things that go bump in the night. And she had some library books that had been in her apartment, and they wound up in her car, but she didn't move them.
Oh
And this
my God.
house had been worked on by several people. And I'd heard of a couple of them, and I was like, I don't know. So I went there and I worked there, and one of her comments was, "Wow, nobody's ever done what you're doing." And I'm like, "Yeah, I do think I'm the only person doing it like this." And we built a little nature spirit area. And I'll tell you, I haven't heard from her. Things
Wow.
are, yeah, and that was like,
Wow.
and to me, it was a big, wow, okay, you're good at this for me, because these
Right.
were some of the best people. Two of
Wow.
them, their reputations are like up there. And in fact, I was going to check in with her next week, because of just making sure that everything is okay.
That's
But yeah,
incredible. Yeah, it really validated what you do. It must have felt great. So when you were going through that house, what were you feeling when you were going through the house?
well, so that is such a good question, Debbie, because you just think about what you have in your house. Okay, we're sitting on a sofa, right? I my sofa I've had this sofa for a very long time. I'm very fond of it, but it had to come from somewhere, right? So it's cotton cloth, it's colored green, it's stuffed with stuff, it's built with wood, and I've sat on it mostly for years, but somebody had to make that cloth. Somebody dyed that cloth. It was the cotton came from somewhere, the batting came from somewhere else, and all of those we leave energy wherever we go. We're energy beings. So if I touch something, I'm leaving a little bit of energy. Well, what if the person who cut down the tree that built the thing was in a really bad mood, and the tree was like, because it got killed?
Right.
So all of that energy is in there. So like in that house that I was walking through, well, it was her grandmother's china cabinet, it was her mother's table, it was these books that she, amassed from all of these different places. It was her energy. And so everything is like, the resonance is a little different everywhere. So part of the work I do is just, I hope this is, I don't, you can't measure with a
Right.
Geiger counter or whatever. I hope that everything is sort of then harmonized and it's got the same resonance. And so when I was going through that house, there was a lot of her nervous energy, the person who was living in the ADU with that nervous energy about, oh my God, are my books gonna, what's gonna happen? Am I gonna find like, the milk in the cabinet or is it gonna stay in the fridge? Those kind of things. But that's the thing. It's like everything we touch, we leave a little bit of energy. So having somebody like me come and just smooth it out so everything feels really good. In the conversation this morning about the curandera, I said, well, when you walk in here, I was having my washing machine repaired. When you walk in here, how does it feel? And he was like, well, it feels really good. And he has like a protection spray. This appliance guy has a
Oh,
protection
wow.
spray he uses when he goes into a
People's
place.
houses.
And I'm like, that,
Wow.
that's amazing. That's what I do, you know? And he's like, yeah, it feels really good in here. I said, and I'm like, thank you. And you are magic because he touched the machine and it worked.
Oh my God. So I have to ask, what kind of protection spray or what kind of protection spray do you offer that people could buy?
I have a spray called Protect Me actually, and what it is it's vertical and horizontal alignment. And what it does is it creates, I don't know if you're familiar, I'm sure you're familiar, but I don't know if your audience is familiar with the auric field. But we have three layers of energy around us. And if you kind of put your arms out, we're in a big egg, all the way around. And stuff gets in. Like, sometimes, there's that Seinfeld episode about the close talker, right? Oh,
Okay.
he was a really close talker. They're like in your face, and you can't like they're like you can literally feel them in
Yeah,
your
that's
field,
true.
right?
You can feel
Yeah,
that when someone gets so
yeah.
close. And
When I was a hairstylist, I used to work with a woman who would be like right up there. I'm like, no. Um, so so this one, the Protect Me, it actually gets the energy out of your aura and helps
oh,
reknit that energy around you, sending it back to the people it came from and grounding you. So yeah, it's a really cool essence, and it's in the Animal RX line, also called Protection Plus, because a lot of our pets have boundary issues. So
right.
so
Yes.
it's yeah, but that one is really great. We have a common friend, and I supply her with it all the time. So
Well, I
with
definitely will
Protect
be
Me. Yeah.
ordering that after the show. We've gone on quite long. We're gonna take a commercial break and we'll be right back with Susanna Delman. Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome back to Mastering the Art of Real Estate. I'm here with Susanna Delman. She is with Essential Clearing. We're talking about flower essences and clearing, well, specifically clearing houses for real estate agents so they can sell their homes. What are some of the other clients that you help other than realtors?
work with small business owners. I have contracts with several of them. I work with a naturopathic clinic in Marin, and I love going in on a quarterly basis to help things move along. Specifically in a naturopathic clinic, people are there because it's a sad, it can be a sad place, it can be a happy place, and it really depends. A lot of people come in because they have nowhere else to turn, and so there's that energy of like, oh my god, I nobody believes me. And so all of that, so shifting that energy on a regular basis really really helps. Same thing with acupuncturists and other healing modalities that people wind up at, where it's, the last hope. And so when they get like a diagnosis is kind of too broad, but when they get heard and they know it's not all in their head, they will like let all of that go right there. I worked in Sausalito, in a it was a design studio. She did eco-friendly design and eco fabrics and eco everything, and everything was sourced sustainably and without chemicals. And people would come in and they with environmental illness and multiple chemical sensitivities, and when she knew what they were talking about, and they were so frustrated because they tried to buy a sofa and they couldn't because it made them sick, when they felt heard, they just dropped their stuff. And after a few years of that, people weren't coming in because there was this energy of like, in there. So it's closed now, but I worked there quarterly or even more. So people would come in because when I got there, there were years of this like hopelessness just kind of built up in it, and her business was failing. And then after that, her business, I think it doubled in about a month because because people were finding her again because the energy was clear. And that's the thing that happens, is that the energy goes out invisibly because things are just moving smoothly. So with the naturopathic clinic specifically, people started inviting the owner of the clinic to speak internationally. And
Wow.
now he's doing that, and they raised their rates and they're doing better and more people are coming in, and it's wonderful to see that happen.
Amazing. Yeah, I
Yeah.
love these testimonials. That is so exciting to hear, especially because I've only used you one time, which I will be hiring you to do another couple jobs. But it's, I usually go in hire and say, okay, do, but I don't get the testimonials. I always trust people from the get go. So it's really fun now to hear all these success stories. So um, I believe, of course, but I'm sure there's a lot of people who don't for whatever reason. Does one have to believe in order to hire you? And does one have to believe in order for it to work?
So no. The answer is no, one doesn't. Either way, it does work. There was a listing in the Oakland Hills back to the fire, and it had been in the fire zone. It was one of those houses that had been rebuilt. And the woman who was living there needed to sell. It was a really sad situation. I know you've seen them, Debbie. So,
Mhm.
and off screen, I could tell you what this house was. Everybody knew it had been on the market for over a year, fourth listing agent,
Wow.
and he was desperate, and he hadn't had the listing very long. And a neighbor in the area, um, was like, the neighborhood was so tired of the listing. They were so tired of the house being on the market. They didn't know all that was going on, but something not so great had happened. There were just there was so much. And they just wanted it sold, and the woman was completely upside down, and just a lot of financial woes, a lot of financial woes. And he didn't believe me at all. He didn't believe that I could, that he was like, my friend sold it to him. She's like, you got, just try it. Nothing else has worked. He's like, I don't believe it's going to work. I said, that's completely fine. Whatever, it works.
Wow.
He hired me. And here's the thing. And I'm addressing all realtors who watch this.
Hmm.
Realtors, this helps your business. If my work can shorten a listing by a weekend, you've paid for it. It doesn't matter the size of the property.
Right.
It just, if it shortens it one weekend, you're on to the next listing. You're on to the next thing. Don't A lot of times I will get, oh, well, I've got to check with my client about it. I need to talk to my client. Don't talk to your client. Just
That was my other
consider
question. Are you
me.
supposed to? Okay, you don't
Yeah,
have to speak
consider
with the client.
that I am, you may talk to the client about the paint, but you don't talk to the client about the painter. You may talk
Right.
to the client about having it cleaned, but you don't say, oh, which cleaner do you want me to use? You don't, like, think of me as the cleaner, because
Okay.
what happens is a realtor will talk to the client, and the client will be like, oh no, that doesn't work, that I would, no. And also the realtor be like, well, asking the client to pay for it. It's Don't do that either. It's
No.
just better if I'm just part of the thing.
Right.
So he did talk to her. I spoke to her. This was a whole issue. Anyway, the house had been dead. No visitors, nobody had seen it. I'm sure it had been on Broker's Tour every single time. It was a new listing agent. It was like, one of the top producers couldn't sell that house. And 2 weeks later, it was sold.
Wow.
And
Just
yeah, out
wow.
of the blue, I think there were, I think, I don't remember how many offers. I'm still like, about the place. But out of the blue, people came, and the house got sold. And that has happened a number of times where nothing has happened. I cold called a realtor about a property in Marin, and it looked like it should have been on the side of Mount Fuji. It was handmade, with built-in tansu and sliding doors, and no, it was on the market for a year. When I walked in, it was like the door was like, and there were cobwebs. And 2 weeks later, there were 5 offers out of the blue, 5 full price offers. This was
Wow.
in a different real estate time, and it was sold to architects who loved the bones of the place but wanted to redo it. There had been I mean, literally cobwebs coming down from the ceiling.
Wow. That is
Yeah,
incredible. All right. We've got four
yeah.
listings for you. And one of them, there's hoarders living there. So, okay,
Oh
actually,
boy, hoarders. Yeah, we'll talk
that's a
about
good
that off
question.
screen.
So you can get into all of the others right easily. No one's there. But
Right.
what do you do in the case of a hoarder? Do I just give you the address? Do you go drive past it? Can you handle one not going into the house?
I do a lot of remote work, actually. I was just working in New Mexico. And speaking of fire, the there had been a fire. I had worked in this house previously, when my client, who's an amazing astrologer, was moving in, and there was all this energy from the person who used to live there, and the land. It was in a beautiful forest. Well, come to find out, when we she and I were talking, there was a huge forest fire there, like huge. And it had been like a fire that had been set intentionally by the parks people, but they decided to go have lunch instead of watching it. And the
Mm.
her neighbor's place was completely burnt to the ground. And there was just she wanted, she told me about that. She wanted, things were not going the way her and her partner wanted business wise, and she wanted me to come in. And the the um the land was just like, wow. So when I was working there, I was working with the land, but I realized I need to make a specific flower essence spray for the land. So I made that for her too. But I was working with pictures in her house, walking around. So what I work with when I'm working remotely is floor plans, pictures of the rooms, the outside of the house, so I don't have to go in. And I work like that a lot, which is, like my LA client this morning who I checked in with, she is fine in the house. I work there remotely. So yeah,
Right.
I do a lot of remote work. Um, the the thing about working for people who live in the house on occasion, I worked with this couple of realtors, and they were going to sell their condo and move into another condo. So I was going there to help them sell it. Well, when I was finished, a couple weeks later, they're like looking around like, why are we selling this place? We really like this place. So they didn't. They sold the other place that they bought to move into.
Oh,
Um,
crazy.
but
The
I think
realtor hated you.
I know. No, they were both realtors. It was this
Oh,
couple of realtors. They were both realtors, Debbie. But,
oh my
um,
God. That's
but
so
I
funny.
think I know it is really funny. I think I think hoarder people are just so stuck and so like literally trapped. They're
Right.
literally trapped, and they're at their wits' end. Talk about being upside down. They're really upside down. And there's like, just listening to what I'm hearing about it, there's like some familial, like they're weighed down by the weight of a lot of things that happened in their lives, and also by the stuff that they have amassed from their families over the years.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, let's go to commercial break real quick, and then we're going to talk about why my one house that you cleared didn't sell and why I think so. And I got to take
Okay.
a call because this agent is calling me nonstop. We'll be right back.
Okay.
Welcome back to
Hi.
Mastering the Art of Real Estate. I'm your host, Debbi DiMaggio. So, earlier when I introduced you, I said that you had, I want to say Feng Shui, you had cleared three of our listings, and two of the listings out of nowhere got two offers each, and they had been on the market for quite a while. Then we had another listing that didn't sell. But one of the things you had said, and I'm sure you know which one it was, one of the things you said is, you've got to get the husband to pack his tools and things in his garage. There was also another issue, but you said you cleared it. And I had never heard this. I guess maybe I'd never seen the stove was actually in the middle of the room. It wasn't it didn't abut a wall. And that was an issue. I think we put some plants and did some things, but that house never sold. He never wanted to pack his tools. He never did pack his tools. They were living in the house, unlike any other listing. 99.9% of our listings people do not live in. They were still living there. We did a lot of work around them. We did some staging and painting and stuff, but it still had their mark on the home. So that did not sell. What could you tell me, or what should we have done better, or I've done better?
You did everything you could. He wouldn't move the tools. I mean, like literally, he needed to pack them all up and put them in storage. Like he could not, that he built the house, right? He
Right.
was highly
Mhm.
invested in that house. He didn't, he didn't really want to move Debbie. He loved
Yeah.
the house. He could not, every time they even went out, I mean, this is what I felt. When they went out and looked at other places, they're like, it's not as nice as our place. You know, all of the reasons they would be moving, they couldn't take the house with them. And
Right.
that they weren't ever going to, in their opinion, ever going to get a house that was as nice as the house that they were in. And he was highly invested, which is, I think, why he was so stubborn about moving the tools. Because if he moved the tools, it meant that they were really moving. And a lot of him didn't want to move at all. And my God, I would not have wanted to move either. That was a fantastic property. The backyard was magical, absolutely magical. And
Yeah.
actually, the stove in the middle of the room is a different issue. And that's one of the feng shui no nos, is having an uncontrolled fire element. And
Oh,
anybody listening who has remodeled their house and has an island stove, that can bring illness and sickness. And one of the things that I do, and this would have been for the buyer, not for the seller, because they were moving, you know,
mhm.
they I want to go back to them for just a second. You know, they wanted to move to Capitola or something to be closer
Yeah,
to their
good
children,
memory.
but they were, but you know, you can go down to Capitola for a weekend and
Right.
stay in your beautiful Craftsman in Oakland. And that was that, you know, I'm sorry it didn't sell, but I am so not surprised. But anyway, so back to the uncontrolled fire element is you need to have walls behind your stove. So I work with gem elixirs, with you know, flower essences and gem elixirs to build energetic walls around them. And that's one of the things that I've done a lot with the feng shui master I work with and with my clients, is say, I'm going into a house next week actually that has a fireplace in the middle of the house because it was remodeled and they took out walls, and everybody loves an open floor plan, but you get the uncontrolled fire element and it can be a problem. Like I worked in, and I can tell you this off screen, but I worked in a very famous person's house, and um, he died tragically. And when I was in the kitchen, the big island kitchen stove, uncontrolled fire element, neurological disorder,
Oh,
and just really, really sad. And so that is like, if you're, you know, if you're a contractor or an architect watching this, please keep fire against a wall with a good, you know, good surface behind it. Do not put a stove in the middle of the room. So no
oh,
hibachis.
No hibachis. That's
Anyway,
great
yeah,
advice. No, definitely.
yeah.
So, but that's, yeah, it didn't seem like they really wanted to move, and he was not going to pack. And when I asked him to pack his tools, I felt, it was uncomfortable for me to ask them. And oh, it's not going to sell even if it was tough. I didn't, and they didn't do it. So okay, how should a realtor prepare prior to your arrival? And then let's talk about the things, I know you had me do, I had homework after to do some things. So how do we prepare as a realtor for your arrival, and and what kinds of things do you have us do after you're done?
So I just don't want to be tripping over ladders and stepping in paint cans. So at any part of the process, and I can be brought in, but I love coming in when the house is staged before the open houses, because I love to like have the house look its best and have the house feel its best. And some houses have a lot of ego, and I I also believe that when I am doing that, then the staging gets the benefit of my work.
Mm-hmm.
So then when it goes to the next place, it feels better in that place. But so anytime, I mean, a lot of times, not a lot of times, but sometimes I go and I preview the house before it's going to be open, and we'll work remotely on the house that way, just because there's some reason I can't go in. But when I'm in the house, I will get messages. And that is what you're referring to at the beginning with the sunflowers. So I will hear that the house really wants kids. And I will
Oh,
hear that the house really wants a family. I will hear different things. And if I hear something more than twice, I will mention it. It'll be important. So the sunflowers were for a house that was beautifully staged, but needed some cognitive dissonance, needed something that would be like kind of throw people off. And when it wants to attract a family, I always say bring in some, you know, horrible kids' candies. Like, we're talking nerds and gobstoppers and Ike and Mike's and like the terrible candy, so that it attracts that kid energy. The parents or whoever see the candy and are like, oh, kids. And then there's another benefit. Actually, I realized that because one of my clients kind of put the candy up front in the living room and then also in the kitchen. Like I always say, a big clear bowl of candy, colorful candy. And the people would pick up the candy and they'd like open it and have some candy. Well, they're getting a sugar rush, right? And they're having a good feeling and they're in a listing. So I think it has an added benefit of attracting people to the property more. So anyway, but
I've continued, I actually have continued the candy through after those listings that I forgot about the candy aspect. I continued to do candy in all my listings. First of all, I thought, who is going to eat that disgusting candy? And it all went. And
they
I
do.
just looked at them today that I have, and it's just all that stuff you mentioned. And I've got to get candy back into those listings once we relaunch them. But yeah, they are a draw, and it's a conversation between, both parents and kids are eating it. Then there's also a conversation, I have something for you if you'd like, it's a whole thing. um,
Yeah.
and so you get it. So you also, back to the when you're going through a place, you'll have a feeling of what it needs. And is there anything else, other flowers and candy, that you might have us do?
Yeah, sometimes so just speaking about kid energy, sometimes it'll be beautifully staged, but the staging will not include children. And so there'll be like a family room, but there's no games, you know, throw in a few games, get that energy of play in there. beach balls, right? Blow up a few beach balls and put them in that bonus room, just to bring color and life and that kind of feeling of, oh, I mean, I love stagers. They are amazing. They do beautiful work. And, I'm a huge Danish modern fan. So everything now is Danish modern. Um, but I feel like it there I understand the neutrality and just inviting people in to see how a place looks so they can picture their furniture, but sometimes it's too neutral
Mm-hmm.
and it doesn't have that sparkle. And when you're in a place and it's clean and it's painted and it has new carpets and it looks beautiful, how are you going to bring your 4-year-old son in there with all of the mud on his feet and your daughter who likes to, bring in leaves and dirt and play with the dog or the cat and mess it up? How, if it's so neutral and so refined, it it's hard to see that, it's people are like looking at the yard, which is great, but they're not looking inside to feel like it's a place of play. So it's not every listing, not every listing will tell me it wants a family. But I was working in a place in Marin and it just like kept showing me kids and dogs and animals running up and down and up and down and up and down. And the last two owners had been just single, two couples, no children. And I was like, oh, the poor house, it really wants a family. So anyway, so it depends. Sometimes actually it isn't the sunflower. Sometimes it's just a beautiful bouquet to attract somebody. I think I was working in the Oakland Hills and it was like, just get a beautiful bouquet so somebody can feel themselves in there with this elegant house that wants to have big parties and show itself off. And my God, that house, it was LEED certified. It had this huge ego, and a couple had owned it. They'd moved from, I think, Chicago, and they didn't know anyone, and the house didn't get shown off. And the house was like, dude, get me some action. So
I love it.
anyway,
Uh,
yeah.
we're almost to the top of the hour, but can a client or a realtor be there? Can a homeowner or a realtor be at the house when you're doing your clearing?
Yes, in fact, I spent so much time alone, Debbie. I love it when people are around. But
Oh,
um,
good.
but yes, the homeowner when I'm working with them in their home because they want to improve their life, but not the homeowner who owns the house that's trying to be sold. I don't want them there. But I do want the people, like if I came and worked in a house for people who were living there, who were planning on living there just because they wanted to refresh the energy. They wanted their business to be better. They wanted their life to be better. Maybe they're empty nesters and their kids all moved out and they want to repurpose things or they just want a clean slate. So I want you there because it's fun. I
Right.
burn sage, I walk around, and then at the end we ring bells to sparkle up the energy. So I love that. And I love doing that. Like with a realtor, I'm working on my own, but it's a conversation. And I love to have people come see me work. And I love to have the company.
That's awesome. Well, we've got 4 ahead of us together. So, well, thank you so much. This was so great. I didn't get through all my questions, but I know I'll be working with you a lot this year. I want to wish you a happy new year. And how do people get a hold of you? What's the best way?
They can go and thank you so much, Debbie. I really appreciate the opportunity, and it's super fun to talk to everyone. Um, they can go to my website. It's essentialclearing.com. And that sends an email. My phone number is like on the first Google search page as well. And they can just reach out that way, or they can contact you and you can hook us
Perfect.
up. Yeah.
Well, I know I did. I had a real quick after I sold one of the houses in the hills. an agent called me and she said, and she had been calling me along, how is your listing going? This was before I met you. How's it going? I go, it's a beautiful house and nothing's happening. It's a beautiful house. Open houses are slow. Then I had you come. And then she called me a week later and I'm in LA and I pick up the phone and she said, how did you sell your house? And I said, Susanna, I referred her to you. She called me a week later and she said, we're pending.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really awesome. It's true. And you referred somebody else, and she was like, "Well, let me talk to my and let me do this." And I'm
Oh,
like, "Okay, but let me tell you what's going on." And guess what? The house is still on the market 6 months
oh my,
later. Yeah,
wow.
they did a remodel on a house, down to one wall or the studs, and the
Wow.
energy of the house reacts that way. And it just, you tear down a house and you bring in a whole bunch of workers and they're tromping through and the place gets upset, and that energy keeps the house from selling. So that you know, just like smoothing it out and releasing that energy can help bring people to the house. So
Wonderful.
it's that again, back to the one one weekend short, it's totally worth it.
Oh
I
yeah,
mean,
that was my
yeah,
question. I have so many. Real quick. So I that so when I called you because I was desperate. It had been on the market, and then I started looking for, how can I sell this house? So you did answer early on. So we can call you. You can do it from the beginning. It doesn't have to wait to be a problem. Call you in the
please,
beginning.
I don't like putting fires out because sometimes I can't. Sometimes, I mean, I don't sell every single listing. And sometimes it's your stubborn guy with the stuff in the garage. Sometimes it's just the fire's burning too hot. And if and exactly, smart realtors, and I work with a few of them, bring me in as soon as they have a listing. And that is the best way to do it because also, have you ever had a painter not show up on the day that he said he was coming? Have you ever had a stager get in a big, huge traffic jam and be stuck on the freeway for an extra hour and you've got to get the windows cleaned? I mean, all things just tend to run a little better
Oh,
after I've been there. And it's not, I'm not taking credit for being so talented at what I do. I want to say that I just know how to listen to what the house needs and communicate with the flower essences to shift the energy around it because that's the
absolutely.
magic. That's the
Right.
magic. It's not me. I just facilitate it.
Absolutely. That's wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Susanna. And I will call you right after we close up here. Thank you so much for
Thank
joining
you.
Mastering the Art of Real Estate.
Thank you. My pleasure. Thank you so much. I'm really grateful.
Tune in each week for another episode of Mastering the Art of Real Estate with host Debbi DiMaggio. Here Fridays, noon Eastern on the Bold Brave TV network. Tune in to where real estate matters matter.